Can you guys hear me loud and clear?
Yep.
Awesome. Hope everyone's doing all right today. Crazy heavy news, by the way, about T-Bird. From what I knew of him, he was a great guy, and he absolutely dominated in Gotchi Guardians. So I was going to start off this call today, talking about how there's actually been um, like a lot of FUD in this community this week. Like a lot of uncertainty that I've noticed is in the DAO forums and everything, but Ghost Coin is like definitely powering through, so that's good news. It's getting a little bit back up, which is good to see this morning. There's been one active DAO proposal adjusting quorum requirements and increasing voter XP. That's a core prop by Phantasma. I will copy the link here and paste it in chat. Currently 94% in favor, and it has met 76% of the quorum right now. It ends in 2 days on May 12th. So get your votes in, you guys, and that will be amazing. Main discussion, I didn't have that much today. There are a few things. So we have like a future of kinship, which might turn into also like a future of rarity farming. And then we have some news from New Futuristic, well, not news, a discussion about whether we should get a nominee supervisor for the DAO Foundation as one of us or one of from Latusha. So that will be after that, and then we might mention the future of Gotchi Battler, which is a new forum, and then we'll talk about some active forums, perhaps. So we can start off with our future of kinship discussion. I had Phantasma Foreign and Bobo 8H Craft interested in discussing this topic. And welcome to the stage, Foreign. And welcome to the
GM.
stage, Bobo. GM, how are you doing, Foreign?
Yeah, not too bad. A little bit under the weather, but
Oh, feel
keep it on,
better.
keep it on.
How you doing today, Bobo?
Buenos dias or buenas noches, amigos. I'm doing fine, thanks. How about you?
Great. Pretty good, all things considered. Um,
Um, all right.
so
I actually don't really know where we should start from, because like the topic about the kinship is quite a um, huge thing, because it contains one of the core mechanics that really was not even ever tried to get utility, and all the attempts just bring like only negative results, as I see it, in my opinion. Um, I also tried to find some ways of making it working more closer to some original mechanics of Tamagotchis, that Aavegotchi being built from the concept of it, but we just had only one thing to remind us about that, is betting option that rise our kinship if we do that twice a day,
okay.
and
Yeah, a lot of
actually
people.
was not engaging.
Yeah, so a lot of people think that kinship should go away. A lot of people think that it should be expanded upon for sure. The way it is like basically how we started this whole project surrounding the gotchis as virtual pets that you take care of and pet, and it's been like a mechanic for us. It definitely needs some depth to it though. There were some good ideas in the thread that we saw about the kinship thread. I'm looking for it.
Yeah, that's true. And as far I was thinking about like making it closer to the original intention about Tamagotchis and stuff,
Yeah,
I'm seeing that the idea that being said about like some sorts of the toy the same way as it was with Tamagotchis, that could connect to your wallet and give you the just easy in UI or interactability, just to click a few buttons and you feed and you cure and like you clean and all that stuff. Because I think it would be a really nice thing, but I think it's also like brings um, more things to discover, like finding a manufacturer and the shipping things, and also it might be a problem of a doxing, because like a shipping address might like also uncover someone's identities and stuff like this. And in the crypto spirit, it's like out of the field at all. So I'm not sure, but I think that we really should think about considering some options of making kinship really interactable.
Yeah, I agree. Foreign also had a good idea. Foreign, you mentioned something about uh try maybe hiring like a new development, like an extension or something.
Yeah, I was thinking, I mean, we've had the DAO has funded games and projects, but how about we flip it around and actually get something specific that we want made and have some sort of app or DApp or something where we can link it to our gotchis, pop them in a little house, pet them, feed them, book, garden, craft, dress them. You know, the options I think are kind of huge as to what we could do if we actually turned it into an interactive pet, and then it would, you know, live up to the name of being a pet. And I think that would be cool, and it would tap into a lot of different markets as to people that like playing with little pets and decorating and all that fun stuff. So I was just thinking, yeah, we should maybe commission someone, put the call out, and once we decide what we actually want, to get something made. And then from there, we could expand on what that kinship, how that would grow and what we use it for. And it would also give us the option to spend kinship within a kind of gaming environment, a gamified way to, yeah, love our gotchis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think we facing a challenge in here between like we need to find a balance between carrot and the whip, because in the current form that we under the whip, if we don't bet our gotchis, we're gonna get a penalty. We're gonna lose a kinship point. So this is where the problem of botting things came. I really enjoy games where I can come anytime, like after a week, and don't lose my progress and still be in the same good position. Like I will still have competitors that um, gonna be on the same level as me, and I'm not losing stuff. But here it's like mm, we want to keep people engaged, right? But it's not supposed to be engagement by the penalties. It's supposed to be engagement by the pure will or something like that. And this is where the problem with all this comments about rugging kinship comes, because if we start to like, I don't know, just to make it flat again, to try to make things like the more interactions you make is from this point to like I don't know to the snapshot that the more you're gonna get. We still have to respect the OGs and people who was hand petting, not hand petting, whatever, but they were like mm, on the thing first. And anyway, all the support came from the people who was originally first in the Aavegotchi anyway. So this is kind of like double-edged sword that also needs to be like find the solution to it.
I have a question real quick. So kinship, like we talk about, like its current mechanic and how like changes do affect OGs. What do we feel about kinship in the post rarity farming world? Like fast forward to a year or two from now, we finished out the seasons. Is it still a mechanic that we keep, or do we move away from it?
Since we was originally intent to be Tamagotchis and kinship supposed to represent our bond with the pets, that actually, I don't know, this concept was never being made to be reality. Like I never felt that Aavegotchi is really my pet. The only moment when I felt like I really engaged with the game, like that I was considering as a game, going to the bazaar, buying wearables, finding nice suits, or like trying to find the cheapest items that gonna suit my traits and stuff. And some people were telling me, "Yo, man, you're doing it wrong way. Like you're supposed to go for the full set, or it's gonna bump the price this way or that way, or maybe you should go for this traits or another traits." This was quite fun, but then just like with the time, um, when my old Dutchies was dressed, and my interest just went down because from there I didn't feel any opportunity for me to be hooked, to be wanting to come and interact or buy more things and stuff like this. So we're really missing the interactive in Aavegotchi. Like there is nothing that like playing with your mind that much. Like okay, if it would be closer to Tamagotchi aspect, you will feel more bond since your pet could die, right? If you're not cured him or you're not feed him, or like maybe he catch some sickness because he didn't bath like for a long time. I didn't really play the real Tamagotchi thing in my childhood because I simply didn't have in my hood. So um, I cannot like refer to the concepts of the Tamagotchis like as like full knowledge, right? But I just know the concept overall.
Yeah, no, Future, you raise a good point though. The kinship trait in and of itself is directly connected to rarity farming. So if we decide as a community to transition into a post rarity farming type deal, um, kinship was like one of the traits like that could only basically be used only for rarity farming, um, as we knew it. So, well, also like farming, but
Yeah, see, the way I
it
think
did
about
contribute
it
to
is
that.
like
But
we don't have to undo or get rid of the mechanic itself. We keep it. It's just in
right.
whatever the future is, we don't monetize play. There's no like we don't add money to that one specific thing. Like it could be focused on other things because the rarity farming, we can debate whether we should have it or not, but we kind of have. I keep using the term a debt to the OGs. But once that debt is paid, and if that's 3 or 4 rarity farming seasons, whatever it is, then thinking ahead of that, like I would strongly encourage that, like we don't fall back into leaderboards that are like this, and then maybe move towards gaming leaderboards where yeah, kinship could come into play into the various games, as we do with channeling and stuff like that, but not have it like a core metric for like the gaming, for the earning flywheel, the loop that we have in the ecosystem. But only once we
Yeah, and if
satisfy
we
that
decide
debt.
to go, y- if we decide to go
Mhm.
to towards gamifying, the gotchis as pets, CryptoGotchi has a good idea that we could introduce different stats instead, um, happiness, satiation, etc. If we do have like an extension of that sort, that would be a good idea.
Yeah, and actually, I didn't answer the directly to the question of NF post rarity farming world. Okay, let's like imagine that we actually gonna finish it if we're gonna finish it. But anyway, it's not necessary after all the funds being paid. Like yes, we take it like the funds that deserve to be paid, right? The rest of 2 or 3 farmings left. I'm not sure how many of them, but whatever. So it's not necessary to keep that mechanic as like as a part of earning process. It can become just a game by itself, just like to engage, to interact with the protocol. It's not necessary to keep it making money, right? We can keep something else because for XP could be earned for the games. BRS is already affecting your gains. So this too is enough. And the kinship is could be just an onboarding mechanic or something that is like actually making users to be interested. Like, yo, the Tamagotchi didn't pay you shit. You actually spent $20 on buying that toy just to play, to make it live or die. That's all. The fund was your reward. That's the point.
Yeah, but I feel like the original Tamagotchi was like a well done psyop on all us children. Like they marketed so well that we're like, oh, I need this thing. And to parents, it's like, all right, let me spend $20 instead of giving you a real animal that you might kill in the process. So I think that's wonderful. The thing I think about though, and it's because I bounce around. I'm like Aavegotchi is my main ecosystem, but trust me, I am in everywhere now. I try to check out everything everywhere, and unfortunately, the Ponzu is always like the strongest thing. So people, we can build. Ideally, we build games that people just want to play and they come over. That is the goal, but Web3, especially the web. That's why I think it's also good to break away from the native Web3 audience because we're just dealing with gambling addicts for the most part who need to find yield in some way. They want to find a game. Like literally, people spent, you know, thousands and thousands of ETH getting this stupid abstract games thing to play a simple like casino game that none of them, like the majority of people were going to lose at anyway. So it's unfortunate that there is that like such a strong draw to the Ponzu in this general ecosystem of Web3. So it's like just trying to balance that because eventually, eventually I do very well believe that like gaming, Web3 gaming is not going to need to have these like financial incentives because the games are going to be so good that they could potentially rival experiences in Web 2. I just don't think we're there yet, unfortunately. Even though like Gotchi Guardians is still like to me like as a player that plays it a lot now better than most games I've seen in Web 3, but it's still like even OTG off the grid on AVAX only has it has like 500,000 daily
I,
active
I
users.
I got it. I got what you were trying to say. But look, the axes have this like interests from the people jumping in to just like earn the interest or yield or something. I think it was hyped because it was beautiful, fun, engaging. The gameplay was quick and short and like intuitively digestible and stuff like that. Or I'm not right.
Well, with Axie, like even when I got into Axie, which was way too late, the headline was there are literally people in the Philippines that are quitting their regular job because they're able to make enough money to live off of playing a game. And, a lot of people actually got wrecked by that because they ended up buying expensive assets thinking that they would be able to earn off it and live off it. Yeah, Axies are now like $2. I have two Axie teams. I haven't touched them in 3 years. I don't even know if the Ronin Maven, whatever the hell it was, that app that you had on the computer. I don't even think that's here anymore on my computer. Sky Mavis.
So the selling point was still the yield, not the gameplay.
Yeah, that's kind of the point I'm making though. It's like at this point, the draw to Web3 gaming is the potential for that yield. Like I think, what was the game? People have been talking about DeFi Dungeons, I think it is, and like all of the KOLs that I see talking about it, it's all about the yield. That is the draw that people are jumping into. Like I really do feel like if abstract wasn't farmable for XP for airdrop, they would not. No one would be playing those games because none of the games are good. Like it's just I can get better games on my cell phone now that at least tickle me in a dopamine hit. Where currently most games in Web3 don't offer that, and even if they do, the degens are in the casino. They're, if we look at the volume metrics, especially in Web3, it's like Solana's winning or was winning at least earlier this year because it was just one big casino and people like wanted to gamble. And it's unfortunate, but that's why I think that we like Web2 gamers and Web3 gamers or gaming or Web3 participants are so far apart. And that's why Web2 gamers are harder to convert because they just want a fun experience. But we, as the Web3 peeps, we want the money that we're looking for yield.
I really enjoyed playing with Axes, to be honest. There was strategy in it and they were really cute and I like to figure out like how they fit together and what their play mechanics were. Um that actually like drew me and excited me about it too. Of course, obviously the yield part was good too. Like I did view it as an investment, but I still thought it was like really cute and fun. And I watched a lot of videos on it, and they were entertaining to watch the battles too. It was entertaining. I want to say that.
I don't see why we can't keep it rewarded. Like, I mean, if let's just say we did come up with this gotchi petting game, all the new assets or bits we could buy for it. So you can plug your gotchi into it. You get your basic humble cottage to start with, but then everything else that you can buy to up your game, go to, you know, a reasonable house, a spacious castle, all the cosmetic wearables, throwing fake gotchis on the wall, the frames, the food, the, you know, anything else that we plug into it. All that stuff could be bought from the bazaar or wherever. And if we funnel X amount of the profits from that into a new kinship, rarity farming, or something else leaderboard, you know, we still get the gamified earnings to satisfy the Web3 peeps, but we, you know, reset it from zero when we start this so that new people actually can get in on the game. And then that's the only way we fund this kind of reward system, is purely from what this app makes itself. So then it'll have to be sustainable from the get-go, and with all future ideas coming into it. And then, you know, we could have art competitions, design competitions, different themes and seasons and whatnot. Like, we could really run with it, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's the Ponzu has to work like if like any new mechanic or like new game, it has to be that newcomers actually have a chance to come in. Like I'll be transparent when Orium stops their petting, I don't think I'm petting my vault gotchis anymore because there's no real incentive other than just love for me to do it. But for me to have to break out a ledger and then to pet them, I'm putting wear and tear on my ledger. I could drop it into Gotchi world and spend Matic, but I'm never going to be competitive in kinship. So for me, it's like it doesn't really make much sense anymore to continue petting other than just like the lore of me not wanting my gotchis to be at zero because that looks horrible, right? It's the incentives have to be able to be appealing to newcomers because you know, especially after rarity farming, our goal should be broadening our base of users. And do we need to give them money in gamified ways? I don't know. A great game could do it, but the idea is though we have to expand beyond just the 30 people that are on this call right now because that's the only way we survive. But we still first have to take care of that debt.
So we actually just need to find a balance between the fun and the incentive and the payouts.
Yeah. A gaming loop would be like a great idea. It's like if there was some way that all of our mechanics could like interconnect and, you know, lead into other mechanics, you know. Um and I mean, I've been saying that forever, but I feel like that's what this kind of ecosystem needs. Stuff
Yeah,
maybe that you can't, that will be harder to have botted and like have happen automatically, maybe. Or and there has to be some form of staking too, but you know, we can discuss that topic another day. But yeah.
yeah, and also today I was just going through the existing problems of like our asset stagnation, and I was looking at the ways of making new utilities for the NFTs that we have right now without making a dilution. And one of the like the best options that I see for like long time is some sort of the casino or something that brings gambling. One of the easiest option that bring interaction of the group of the people, like the poker, a table of 8 people, or like it might be a custom thing too, that should require a gotchi to be able to enter the table to play poker. Also, we can use trades of the gotchis that could affect the gameplay for example, having a Gochi with this trait or another trait will boost or give you some skill that you can use in the game that could affect the reward or the odds or just like mess up with the opponent's card or something like this. And if we would consider making something like this in that loop, there is some other opportunities that could lead to the chain of the good things that will help to the existing holders and might bring new people to our protocol, because there is already an element of gambling. Poker is quite like worldwide spread thing, and many people knows how to play it. Not really need to explain the rules, but the additional things about the trade effects. And I just got some examples on the GitHub. I posted the link to that repos on the Gotchi Gang chat. So maybe someone already read that. Maybe you gonna read it after the call or something. But I think the casino stuff being discussed like maybe a few times already. And I were thinking about it maybe like 3 years ago, but still like nothing happening. No one trying to build anything like this. No one trying to implement something like it's just simple as it looks to me. Maybe not from the coding side because I'm not a coder, so I cannot tell.
Right. Well, the thing is, we've been like trying to move to different chains, like, in recent days, recent year. So, it's like we need to decide, I guess, where we're gonna build before we get like people to actually like start building. We're kind of in like a transitionary period at the moment, as we're moving to base. But once we get to base, I'm sure like maybe we need to start thinking about who we can get to start building, maybe fund, maybe start a proposal. If we have any volunteers within the community, that would be great. We could maybe go external as well, maybe consider some options to help us out, get this gameplay loop going, get this we could implement a lot of our existing things like kinship and decide what's happening with um the stuff that you know where I'm going with this. But yeah, we'll get builders when we go to base, I hope. We can start that conversation. We can start thinking about it now and figure it out from there. Because it's like a new starting point, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's why I'm
Yeah, I
thinking
got
we
it.
should start thinking about it now because I'm worried that we do have an end in sight at the moment for when rarity farming ends. And if we have nothing lined up for that, then we're either going to end up in like a bad place or we're just going to knee jerk put in some more rarity farming as is. And I don't think that's in the best interests for the future of Aavegotchi as a whole. So, I mean, now is the time to start coming up with and actually building whatever we need to continue this forward. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because there is an issue. We are about to face the vulnerability, and like there is a risk if Pixelcraft is not gonna deliver, and we're gonna get the IP rights just like as it is, right? And we're gonna stay in the broken ship with the IP rights that like there is nothing to do. Then what? We're already not ready to face something like this. This is a huge challenge, and we have to find the ways to make revenue to the DAO. Otherwise, we're not gonna sustain anything in the future. So this is the point that I'm saying that we should seek for the options to make profit to the DAO. It doesn't matter which way we're gonna look for, because right, if we're gonna deny every idea that could pump the onboarding or the holders or the assets, it doesn't matter if it's gonna help to the ecosystem. Of course, the legal side can always be shaped or polished, but it's not other ways around. When we shouldn't like go under like the rules and finding only this tiny narrow way to make some 50K a month or like a year just to be fine with the SEC and some Cayman Islands rules. But I think the things could be shaped already after we just finding the direction. I'm not saying that it's like my idea of making any gambling stuff or anybody else idea of making something that is like really interactive, sort of casino or whatever, poker, not poker, dice, anything. Anybody could build the things that it's gonna be something that gonna bring the flow, right? I just don't know how to say it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just as long as we're, we have to, because we did have a big discussion in the discretionary funding channel about like compliance and what we need to do. And like, once we start generating revenue and stuff like that, it changes our responsibilities at the corporate level. So if we're ahead of that stuff, we can handle it. I just don't want us to be in a position where we do stuff and then we're like behind the ball and now we like open up new liabilities to the DAO and its members.
So which trend saying? I don't get it.
Okay, so yes, he's referring to this Discord channel where one of the most recent things that he posted was where it was clarified that we do not need additional reporting outside of what our registered agent does unless the DAO starts to make revenue or engages in business activity. So once we start to do some of that stuff, we'll have to make some legal changes in our structure.
Yeah, mostly reporting requirements, like just making sure that we're keeping records. But like theoretically, the yield on our staked ETH counts as revenue, so we're supposed to report that. And like Jesse's saying, Latusia can help us with that. We just need to make sure that we are set up and ready for these things because our compliance will change. Like currently, the filings are pretty straightforward because we are not revenue positive, at least so it seems. But once we, if we do become revenue positive, if we were to inherit the IP from the games that have been built for the DAO or even from Pixelcraft, the Aavegotchi IP, our reporting requirements change pretty significantly in terms of like just standard annual reports like that are just, like a simple one-off memo of like our holdings versus like, actual filings. But our Latusia can handle that. We just need to have the infrastructure in place, which I think we mostly do. And this will be part of this the conversation we'll get into about the supervisor that we'll need to decide if we want Latusia to be our supervisor or to nominate someone else, in the community. I think it should be Latusia just to keep things easy, but that's just me. Oh, the DAO is earning
And
revenue.
also, as I understand, it's a professional person, right? It's the person who's doing what she knows how to do, not a community member.
Yeah, so Latusia can do that for us. That's part of their services. It would be an additional $2,000 a year to be our nominee. Seeing what Dan has wrote here, Dow is earning revenue every month for what it's worth. So yeah, we'll have to talk to Johnson about this because that might change the reporting requirements, which might not be a huge thing, but if we've been earning revenue for the last 2 years, part of like our thing with Latusia is the discretionary fund right now is for our annual stuff, but we also, as part of the conversation with them, are going to have to pay probably some penalties and filing fees for the last 2 years that it seems like we're not filed for. So if we did have revenue, there might be a tax hit as well. I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to talk to Johnson, but we should probably get, it's probably just getting a yearly audit, very common in profit generating companies. Yeah, we probably need to kind of document this stuff and provide it to Johnson so we can see what our what we might owe because we're probably gonna have to pay fees for compliance penalties at the very least, and that's why the discretionary funding thing. Did she say it? We are. We just need to get all that stuff set up.
So that
Right.
means that we're also gonna pay taxes.
Potentially.
Okay, I hate it, but okay.
Yeah. that's a good transition into our next topic, unless we want to have anything last to say on the kinship and rarity farming discussion. Maybe we could circle back after this.
I think it's just all things stitched together. I think we can continue the flow as it goes, and I think we're already on the topic of the how is it called? Establishing a discretionary fund.
Right. So, yeah, our next topic is about the nominee supervisor for the DAO Foundation, and this is the where No Futuristic mentioned that we need to discuss um the nominee supervisor. Has been offered by Tim Ravel from Latusia. And there is a price for it to get the nominee supervisor. Otherwise, I believe we can get someone from within. No Future, you know a little more about this than me if you wanted to
Yeah, so
talk a little bit about.
it seems we can either pay Letitia $2,000 a year annually to be our nominee. We did have one previously. I'm looking at I guess this is from our Constitution, Choina Children's Council by notice to the foundation company or the directors by directors resolution shall leave the power to appoint or remove one or more supervisor. The first supervisor is Atoman Nam BVI Cayman Islands. So we basically Tim or Johnson has said, okay, the foundation needs to appoint a supervisor, replace Autonam Limited. It could be someone from the community or a nominee provided by my side. So I don't know what the full scope of what this nominee will have to do, but to be honest, I'd rather pay a professional $2,000 a year than to kind of have somebody within the community do it unless they're qualified. And I'm not even, to be honest, sure what the qualifications are for this. Johnson had asked us if we should move forward with using Lotusha as the nominee, and I said basically we need to talk to the DAO. So I don't know if this in the Constitution, maybe Choina knows a little better, because it seems like the language here is that the directors have the power to appoint or remove one of these supervisors. So if we do have that power, if that is part of the Constitution, then we can discuss this internally. But I figured, as always with any of these subjects, we should be bringing it to the DAO to get feedback before we make any moves.
Yeah, question from Ditchy. Are we talking about a third-party auditor, reviewer?
To be honest, I am not sure. I know it's a supervisor, and from what I've gleaned out of the, I'll look at our CorpSec channel. The supervisor, like for our structure, we're supposed to have a like a director, someone. There's going to be a number of people who are listed on our foundation's documents, and it could be as little as one person, like that is like a director or a founder, someone that's like top level. We basically had three before, me, Mycalium, and Choina. And I don't know, and then this supervisor who's separate, but we need to have a supervisor. They said supervisor member and then like director / founder or something along those lines. So, as Ditchy's saying, supervisor, any non-member that we grant access to attend and vote at general meetings. Yeah, so previously our agent was kind of handling it. So the agent went under apparently, so that stuff didn't happen. So with Latusia, this is it seems like a norm where this is part of the services they provide. Currently, we were looking at, if I remember off the top of my head, like I said, annually, I think it was like $6,800 for their services as our agent, plus like an additional $200 for like document filings, and then there was other like annual fees. This would be one of them. So it was in the range of like 10 to 15K, giving us a little bit of wiggle room in case anything comes up, like we need to replace a director, which another subject, we're going to have to replace a director because first Aavegotchi has made it clear that he is stepping down as of June 1st. I don't know where Lagan is. I don't know if he's been on. He hasn't been onboarded. I don't know if he wants to continue as a director. I don't think he's been paid yet. So that, it's a whole other issue that we have to kind of deal with. But yeah, like somewhere in the 10 to 15,000 range to handle our annual filings, and then a little wiggle room for any additional compliance stuff like replacing directors, KYCs, and then of course the additional, salary or whatever you want to call it for people who are like taking the extended risk of being on the documents. Because currently it appears that Maxi Crouton is fine with continuing as our treasurer, but because he's not going to be in a position where he has to do that higher level KYC, which opens him up to basically MICA issues. So,
What about the centralization issue?
well, the foundation is our legal wrapper for the DAO. So, as I said when we were talking about hardcore about this, the foundation, like these roles within the foundation, are strictly governance, administrative for the Cayman Islands because they don't care that we're a DAO. They just want us to be compliant with their laws for these kind of foundations, these entities. So, theoretically, this position is just figurehead on paper. They don't actually have any discretion. Like currently, I think I'm listed as like the founder or the director. Other people within the directors somehow think that that gives me more power. It absolutely does not. It just means that my name is on the line, which is not really a comfortable position to be in. But the decentralization is still there because we as multi-sig signers, which if we think about it like this, the multi-sig is almost separate from the foundation. The foundation is our legal wrapper protecting the DAO. The multi-sig is supposed to just enact the will of the DAO. So it's more just for like compliance, like to make sure that the Cayman Islands look at our documents and see, hey, we have the founder, we have a supervisor, we have a member, that we are providing annual reports, which if we're not generating revenue are very minimal, and that we are paying whatever annual fees that we pay. If we don't do that, then we run the risk of being struck off, which almost happened. We just avoided it by a couple weeks, and we would lose our legal protections for if that happened. So just got to be careful because it is a danger. Like if we're not compliant, it's not only a danger to me because I will me or whoever else is on these documents. Ditchy has said before that because we're a member led organization, it could come down. Like if we lose that protection, then potentially all of us can be at risk because we're all members of the DAO. How they figure out who's who and all that, we leave that up to government agencies, but I'd strongly suggest we don't that we remain compliant.
So I just meant like the centralization issue might be if the most of signers gonna be, for example, US based or any other country.
Yeah, I don't
Or
think
I'm wrong
that's
about that.
yeah, currently it's not like that. I think if we look at the current signers, I am in the US, Choina's in the US, I believe Hardcore's in the US, but he's saying that he's going to leave the US. The rest of the signers, if I'm not mistaken, are outside of the US. They're in Canada, Asia, or in Europe. So we don't really have it's not a huge issue at this point. If anything, I feel like the Europeans are more at risk of being on the documents because of the way Europe is regulating, where the US has been a little bit more chill since Trump took office.
So you think it's gonna be better if we're gonna make like most of the signers to be like unvulnerable for any legal cases? Because it sounds like US is even more safer.
Yeah, see, the way it looks is like realistically, the foundation and the multi-sig signers are two separate things. Like the signers are the signers. There's not really that higher like KYC part of it. So it's not as big a deal. Where the foundation is just our legal wrapper. So as long as it doesn't matter where we're from, as long as we just keep things compliant, and if the DAO isn't executing transactions that are illegal, if we're not interacting with sanctioned parties, we should be fine, according to current the regulatory environment. But as long as we're compliant, like the risk really is if we're non-compliant in the Cayman Islands that the people on those documents will be blacklisted from operating in the Cayman Islands. This could also lead to OFAC violations, which for Americans is a big deal.
All right, I see. So what if the DAO would build a casino?
I think that's illegal in most jurisdictions. We would need like licenses, like gaming licenses. I don't know enough about that, but every time I've brought up the fact of like, let's do a casino type game, there's pushback because it does create like dangers for us.
Yeah, I know, but we still could try to find the way out. Like, because the casino things is being a thing since the beginning of crypto. Like all the Tron projects with casinos, just they made profits. Maybe even they stopped existing, but we're talking about something that would move our protocol forward. And also, the casino just gonna be one of the hooks on board on something else too. Just and of course revenue generation. So maybe we should think about looking for some ways to make it legally right. But yeah, acquiring and dealing with licenses is gonna be a big deal. I think like a lot of bureaucracy and all the paperworks. But I'm just not sure. But I think it really could work and really could have a nice bond with NFTs that we have and all the stuff that in our ecosystem.
Yeah, so I'm looking at Musashi's comment here. Said might be a good time to bring up that I'm a representative for CDEZ, Cat to Ball National Digital Economic Zone. If we put our foundation within CDEZ, we could legally run casinos. That is a possibility, but then we would need to basically dissolve our current foundation and then set up another one. So we're still going to have to pay back taxes. We're going to have to pay prior, compliance issues. We will probably have to pay our agent to dissolve. It creates a lot more legwork. So that discretionary fund goes up significantly, and we're also doing this for potentially a product that we don't even have. I
Yeah,
felt like
but
if we
why
had,
we can't have both?
I don't think you can incorporate twice. I think it's I don't know. I've never tried to incorporate an entity in two different
But
jurisdictions.
look, boss saying that we can run multiple entities.
So maybe if we had a second entity that was for the gambling part, and it was like from my experience in tax accounting, they call them check the box organizations, where it's like there's the parent entity and you check another entity under it for tax purposes. So those two entities, a subsidiary eventually of the Aavegotchi DAO Foundation, we would need to honestly speak to lawyers and tax professionals because I'm not qualified to give advice on that.
Yeah, it seems to me like we can actually maybe make like a sub entity that coming out of the Cayman Islands, but I'm not sure about all the legal stuff, and I didn't make my research about that because I just read the topic that you created, and that's it.
Yeah, Codernan says I'm not running a pure Gamblefy project though. Good luck with that. Yeah, like subsidiaries work. We can do that, but we have to make sure that we're yeah, like I mean, Choina said it. We're struggling with a single entity. Having a second entity, we can, I guess, ask Lotusha, but there's going to be additional cost associated with that. Where I feel like it's difficult. Like I like. There's part of me that's worried that even this simple annual discretionary fund won't pass, and the DAO is gonna, unfortunately, not take the responsibilities that it has to make sure that we're protected and legally responsible seriously because to some this is a waste of rewards and that's unfortunate, but there's a part of me unfortunately that does think this is the way it is.
Foreign shared an
Anyway, it
interesting
seems
looking
like we
chart.
got the idea. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention
Mm.
Foreign shared an interesting looking chart. Uh, Here it looks like a simple like structure. If you guys have opinions about that, she said she was playing around with it. It looks cool.
Yeah,
Well,
that's just
let's
from what
download
my
it.
understanding. That's where we're kind of standing now. And I'm just kind of updating it as No Future gives us updates from Latutia and everything. But, we have two separate groups. The foundation protects the DAO, but they're two separate things. They don't really overlap in any kind of decision-making power structure kind of way. Like they just, one shields the other, and the DAO just can safely continue on doing its thing as I see it. So yeah, I'm just updating it as we go, but that's from my understanding where we're at the moment.
Like a mind map.
Yeah. And so hopefully in the future, I mean, once we have more products, more other things going on, like before that happens, like we need to up our structure as far as having internal positions to actually manage these projects and things. So right now we're at a nice, simple little structure, but in the future, I'm sure things will grow a bit, and yeah, we can take it from there.
That's actually really good to see that there is a people who really does some work. There is people who paying attention and doing research. That's actually pumping my hopes up. Anyway, thanks everyone for this call. I got what I wanted. I heard what I wanted too. So let's go for some positive stuff. Have a good day. I gotta go.
Yes, thank you. It was a very constructive call. I love when those happen.
Thanks. See.
Goodbye. Yeah, so definitely a lot of stuff to think about, and
In the future, is there going to be a prop for this? Is there a time, like, are we time boxing when this SIG prop is going to come out, or what's the next steps for this?
Yeah, I mean, if we are in agreement, like if the directors can go to Lotusha, say, hey, we're cool with you guys being our nominee, I can move forward with moving a prop for just the basic discretionary funding, but we still would need to address, like, based on this org structure, like compensation for the KYC, like directors, the president, the secretary, whatever that we actually need. And looking at Foreign's thing, I guess this was it the agent or secretary / executive assistant that works between these two. I have no idea what the pay should be, or even the appetite to add these positions.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of people chiming in on. I mean, I guess until there's a budget, it's kind of hard for people to chime in about opinions on if it's too high or too low. But I mean, it's an informed budget. We know pretty much what the costs are.
yeah,
So
we've been fixing a lot of things about this issue, and gathering our structure and making sure we're having communication with them. So I'm sure that we can survive without a supervisor, at least for now, without being struck off. And probably we might not really actually need one either. But it is a good idea and a good safety concern to have one as well. I guess we'll see. But yeah,
sorry, a supervisor. I have a what? I missed that.
Nominee supervisor.
Yeah, we could go with Latusha on that. If that's the DAO's, like, according to the Constitution, that's the DAO's directors have discretion in that. So I'm sure all of us we'll have a talk, but it seems like we're all pretty much on board with let's just make this easy and not have to complicate it too much more. But Ditchy does bring up a good point. I did minor research on this, ChatGPT, of course, so take it with a grain of salt. I fed it a lot of information about our DAO foundation, and it said based on our current setup where the level of our activity as a DAO, where it's not really revenue positive or not really actually running a business per se. There, I think it was saying for president, which is more of a figurehead thing, along the lines of on the low end, $30K a year. for these positions. Ditchy obviously has his own insights on this, but yeah, see, no futuristic. Assume we are running for profit. So Ditchy, then what, like from your experience, because I'm going based off ChatGPT and it being its assumption is like, hey, like these are just like kind of figurehead positions, but there is risk involved. They were saying basically the treasurer and secretary do have a level of work because they have to keep records, and the president is just kind of a figurehead that's supposed to make like decisions, but in our case none of these positions are actually making decisions whatsoever. Can you raise your hand? I can pull you up. Can I just invite you? Okay, there we go. I just sent you an invite to speak, Ditchy.
Accepted. All right, can you hear me?
Good morning, yes.
Yes, welcome.
Good morning. All right, so this will be easier to discuss by voice than by text chat. From a legal standpoint, we have an interesting hybrid because the DAO membership base, the council in legal terms, is the one voting on all these decisions. But once the DAO makes their decision, it gets handed over to the foundation director, at which point the foundation director, outward facing, is raising their hands and saying to the outside legal world, I made this executive call, all the liability falls on me. So the foundation directors are providing the meat shield to the DAO as a whole. They are taking all of the liability on their shoulders. And for that liability protection, that's why I'm talking about giving ample compensation for the risk. So it's a weird thing. Internally, any decision that we make on chain, we can do as a democratic vote. But any interaction we want to do with the outside world, be it banks, taxing authorities, fiat transactions, or paper contracts with outside businesses, has to be filtered through the executive directors, and they have to take the liability for it. So just to throw a number out there, bare minimum, $100,000 a year in compensation and a $20,000 a year legal retainer is what we'd be talking about for a treasury of $10 million or more.
Is that per person or total?
Per person. Well, not the legal retainer, but $100,000 per person that takes who raises their hand for executive liability.
Yeah.
The amount of risk that you are taking on is directly related to the size of your treasury.
Because someone could try and do, a random lawsuit against the director is basically what you're kind of talking about here. Like, exactly. For example, if the Aavegotchi thing had gone a different direction, there could have been lawsuits filed about that.
So if a lawsuit gets filed against the foundation, you know that lawyers are going to name everybody they can find in the lawsuit, whether there's a chance of collecting from them or not. By throwing everybody's name against the wall, they increase the probability that they're going to have somebody that can pay out if they win. So if they go after the foundation with a lawsuit, and we have a strong board of directors in place as our firewall, they're only going to name the directors. Or if the directors want to take an extra layer of precaution, they become directors through their own LLC rather than their personal name.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I don't know, because what's our treasury at right now, not including rarity farming?
About 10 million USD equivalent is the last time I checked, about half a month ago.
I think it's a bit higher than that. There's 16 million Ghost, and I was checking this the other day. 16 million Ghost and about 4 or 5 million in stables in ETH. So it's about 13, 12, 13.
Okay. So that's why in the other chat in the DAO discussion, the individual proposal that I'm trying to push towards is to do a passive investment with our ETH, because the most conservative investment should still be able to yield 2.5 to 5% comfortably without taking a big risk. And that would, if you were to stake $10 million worth of ETH into a 5% annual yield, that's a $500,000 a year budget, year on year on year on year. We would maintain our principal. We could still ride the ups and downs of ETH to get the capital gains, but a $500,000 a year budget that doesn't require any additional outside revenue is a significant amount of money to run a business with. You can pay your directors, you can fund proposals and development of games, and even shave off some money to go towards game rewards programs. And you can build a nice little momentum off of just that money without ever having to do any venture capital.
I think the issue though is that we don't own $10 million of ETH. It's only, I think, roughly 2 million, right?
I don't know the exact split. I'm just I'm working off of the total Treasury USD equivalent value, just to do some quick back of the napkin math.
Yeah.
So if we have $10 million, that's about that's a reasonable return from a low risk investment.
The only issue is that most of that is Ghost, and there is no yield on that. Like I think on Aave, it's like 0 basically.
I gotcha. And if we were to convert from Ghost into another token, we would put up too much downward pressure on our native token.
And also consider that the treasury part of that is rarity farming rewards, so we can't do anything with that anyway, because that's, we're already speaking for that as payouts for the last 3 or 4 seasons. And what Choin is saying, I mean, this is how I feel. Like, honestly, Ditchy, this seems to me like a rock and a hard place. The DAO is never going to pay anyone that kind of salary. Real question, if we have no choice, what is the option and outcome for disbanding this foundation? I would not suggest disbanding the foundation, because we enter a level of risk for all of us. Like, we basically are riding without a condom. Like, I would not want to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Futuristic. The financial decisions have already been made. The executive votes have already happened. And if we disband the foundation, it's the same as having it struck off. We're still openly liable for all of those decisions as individual members. So one way or another, we're going to have to find a path forward as a group. And I don't think dissolving the protocol is going to be in anyone's best interest.
Warren has a suggestion, reduced yearly salary, but a fund is set up specifically for legal protection costs for the foundation directors in the unlikely event we need it. It's an idea.
Likely, yeah, from a lawsuit perspective, but they will be using that retainer on the regular to seek legal advice from counsel. There will be a lot of what ifs that come up in our future votes, and that's the kind of thing I would love to have legal counsel on before we make any executive calls.
Yeah, it's also, even if we had a large legal fund, that doesn't really exempt the directors individually from that risk, because that liability can be unlimited unless we have each LLCs. And then now you're asking, like, I have to go out and organize an LLC for this, which I can do. I don't have the money to do currently, so it's just, we're asking, it becomes a lot, like, versus like, hey, I'm just signing multi-sig signatures for the DAO. Does an LLC only cost $10?
We're in now, and we need to figure out what to do with it, regardless of how we got here.
I agree. It's just, the idea of the level of outsized risk. For me as an individual, if I'm being selfish, the easy math here is just to step down and say, fuck it, I don't need to take this level of risk because it's not worth it. and I don't like when we had just a like the new KYC requirements, the majority of the directors were about to step down. So there is like issues that need to be dealt with. So like in the short,
Yeah, what I've been thinking is,
yep. No, go ahead.
what I've been thinking is starting up a new channel in the DAO forums so that we can, well, start looking at these problems from a systems architecture level. And what I mean by that is having some framework, some guidelines beyond simply having a group discussion about how we're going to move forward with a specific proposal. Because what I'm seeing so much of is individual proposals that are put out there going, well, maybe we can solve this problem with this solution, but it's operating in a vacuum and it's not taking into consideration the unintended consequences to the other parts of the ecosystem. And so the best way forward I see from my experience in doing business development is that you need to bring your stakeholders together and hammer out solutions at a level where all of the different economic pieces have a say and can give feedback on how a decision is going to impact their piece of the puzzle. So just a little bit of alpha on something that I've been noodling since Forum was so kind to put up her organization chart. Thank you for that. I love seeing that other people are out there pushing the momentum forward on this discussion. The idea being something like we need to have a set of bylaws for the foundation directors if we're going to empower the foundation directors to have any level of autonomy over the foundation itself. And I'll be very specific with my language so there's no confusion. If the DAO takes a vote and they pass that vote on to the foundation directors, the foundation directors need to have a mechanism in place that says, does this fit our mission statement? Does this fit our vision statement? Is this within the framework of our Constitution? And if the answer is no, then there should be somebody there who can go back to that proposal writer and work hand in hand with them to mentor them on how to restructure their proposal to fit within the framework of our Constitution. It's kind of a what would Coder Dan do? What would No Future do? You can use any catchphrase you want, but when you write a proposal, the first question in your head should be, what would the DAO do? And see if it fits within the framework of what we want to do as a whole. And so if that's a discussion that the DAO is amenable to having, looking at a system level structure change to the way we function, I will be happy to start that forum and facilitate the discussion, because there's going to be a lot of points that have to be weighed against one another, and it's not a one proposal at a time kind of approach.
All right, sounds like a process. Thank you for all that information, by the way. That's really helpful.
Oh, you're welcome. Step back and read the chat now.
Yeah, there's a lot of good suggestions in there. Musashi says we should have a rubric for foundation to give info for failed and past proposals.
100%. And that rubric is something that we collectively should design. That should not be a top-down dictation of any kind.
Yeah. A collaborative effort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe there could be a forum started for that. That's a good idea. Thank you, Musashi. And yeah, any other ideas? We can refer back to the forum here. Let's see for this discussion. Oh, not this. Wait. Hold on. The one about I believe this one. I don't know. I don't know if there's a new updated one for exactly what we're discussing, and because there's a lot of components that are relevant and that are morphing as we fix the problems with our legal structures and everything. So I think that's the most closely related one that we have right now. And anyone is welcome to make another one. But yeah. Thank you, everybody. I believe the call is we are overtime today, and but it's been really constructive, and hope to see more conversation on this topic and the other topics we discussed during this call with the kinship and rarity farming and all that stuff. Very good call. And there have been some active forums discussions also been happening, so just check those out in the DAO section. And yeah, I think that's a wrap. Thank you, everybody. And I hope everyone has a great weekend.
Yep. Take it easy, friends.